If you're standing in your garage or small shop, staring at a pile of 1/8-inch steel and wondering whether you should finally invest in a sheet metal brake, you're probably feeling that mix of excitement and dread. The last thing you want is to drop a few $100s on a machine that ends up collecting dust because it either can't handle the jobs you need or it turns every bend into a backbreaking workout. You're looking for proof that the tool you're eyeing actually fits your workflow, your budget, and the kind of parts you'll be making day in, day out. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The Baileigh 48-inch manual sheet metal brake, model HB4816E, sits squarely in the middle of the big enough for serious hobby work but not a full-blown production line segment. It's not a CN-controlled press brake that will automatically feed material and record every bend, but it isn't a tabletop 18-inch brake that can't take a 16-gauge panel either. Think of it as the workhorse you'd expect in a modest fabricator's shop: a solid steel frame, a full 4-foot bending length, and a set of features that aim to make repetitive bends less of a guessing game. Who should consider this machine? If you're a dedicated hobbyist or a small business owner who regularly builds custom enclosures, brackets, vac ductwork, or low-volume automotive parts, the extra length gives you the freedom to bend longer panels without having to splice or roll them. The stop rod is a simple but clever addition. You set it once, lock it in place, and every subsequent bend hits the same angle, which is a lifesaver when you need 10 identical brackets for a project. The adjustable blade gap means you can swap between 12-gauge sheet and the 16-gauge mild steel the brake is rated for, without having to wrestle with a full-size machine's heavy-duty adjustments. On the other hand, if you run a high-volume sheet metal operation where you need to bend a 1/4-inch material or you're looking for a CN-compatible solution that can integrate with your ERP system, you'll probably find this manual brake limiting. It's built for 16-gauge mild steel, with a 20-gauge stainless steel sealing, so anything thicker will either refuse to bend cleanly or will require you to back off on the angle, potentially compromising part tolerances. For those looking to produce thousands of identical pieces a day, the manual nature of the stop rod and the need to reposition clamps for each batch can become a bottleneck. Let's talk about the practical strengths. The fully welded steel frame with support rods does a solid job of keeping flex to a minimum. When you're laying a 48-inch sheet flat and pulling the lever, you can actually feel the rigidity. The bend comes out flat, with little spring back that you'd have to compensate for later. The material clamps at each end are another thoughtful touch. They hold the sheet firmly, distributing pressure evenly and preventing the material from shifting under load. In my own experience with a similar Baileigh model, the clamps saved me from a handful of crooked bends that would have otherwise required recutting. The Counterweight apron lift assist is not just a nice-to-have. When you're hitting the maximum 135-degree bend on a full-length sheet, the lever can feel heavy, especially if you're close to the metal's yield point. The Counterweight gives you a mechanical advantage, making it possible to finish a bend without straining your back. For someone who does a few bends a day, that assistance translates into less fatigue and a more consistent bend angle because you're not fighting the lever with raw muscle alone. Now, the practical weaknesses. First, the manual nature of the brake means you're relying on your own eye and feel for the angle, unless you're using the stop rod. That works fine for repeatable parts, but if you need a one-off angle that's not a round number, you'll likely have to measure and adjust a couple of times before you nail it. The 16-gauge limit is another reality check. Many fabricators who work with 12-gauge or heavier stock will find themselves either buying a second brake or upgrading to a more robust press later on. Also, the machine's footprint is sizable. It needs a stable, level floor and a bit of clearance on the sides for the lever swing. If your shop is cramped, you'll have to plan the layout carefully or consider a wall-mounted version, which Baileigh doesn't currently offer in this size. A real-world scenario that showcases the brake's sweet spot is building a custom electrical enclosure for a client. You start with a 48-inch sheet of 16-gauge mild steel, cut the panels to size, and then need 3 90-degree bends for the side flanges. With the stop rod set at the first 90-degree mark, you can swing the lever, lock the rod, and repeat the bend on the next side without remeasuring. The clamps keep each panel from drifting, and the Counterweight makes the final full-depth bend feel almost effortless. The result is a set of perfectly aligned flanges that you can weld together.